So the topic of this webinar is fundraising in Switzerland. Where do we go from here? So my name is David Derrier. I'm regional manager at Nexell, and I'm really proud to co-host this webinar and this virtual event with Salesforce.org. So to tell you a bit of background, so as a Swiss-based Salesforce.org partner, we work a lot with nonprofits on a regular basis. And what we really wanted to do is to organize a panel discussion, and we wanted to get feedback from nonprofits and organizations that were directly impacted by the current situation that we're going through with COVID-19. And we are very honored today to welcome 4 great organizations that have accepted to join the discussion, and they will share their experience, their expertise, and also their perception about this situation. So before we get into the topic, please note that this session is recorded and that we will take all the questions at the end. So if you have questions, please use the chat feature in Google Meet, and then we will collect and consolidate the questions to ask them to the panelists at the end of this session. If we cannot take all the questions, we'll follow up with you on specific question to ensure that you get the answer. So I'd like first to ask each of the panelists to introduce themselves. So ladies first. So Ines, would you like to kick it off and just tell us a few words about yourself and also about your organization, Fragile Suisse?
Sure, thank you very much, David. And thank you very much for this invitation to this important roundtable with these great people. I'm very honored, and I'm really looking forward to hearing the opinions of everybody who's taking part today. My name is Ines Toppi. I work at Fragile Suisse. If I ask now the audience if they know Fragile Suisse, probably many would say they don't know it, because even if we are like a middle-sized organization, which actually supports people with brain injury and their relatives, we operate on a national level, and so probably we're not that well known internationally, or not at all. And we have one big target group, which are the people with brain injury and their relatives. So this is our specific group. We don't diversify our target groups right now, so to say. Well, I do. I'm responsible for institutional fundraising there, big donors, as well as our CRM database. We offer, so what we do at Fragile Suisse, we offer counseling courses so that people can relearn different skills, so people with brain injury in this case. We accompany the concerned at home so that they are not alone at home, but they don't have to go to a care home, for example, because we want our people to be independent and as autonomous as possible. So this is what we basically do at Fragile Suisse.
Okay, thank you very much, and thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
Sabine from Womanity, do you want to say a few words?
Yes, of course, David. Thank you very much for inviting us. My name is Sabine Rosset. I work for Womanity for 5 years now as a partnerships and external resources in Switzerland. Some words about Womanity. Womanity is a Geneva-based organization. The mission of Womanity is to empower women in the world, challenge gender stereotypes, and to increase positive impact of women helping other women with bold solutions and that accelerate lasting change. We design our own program related to the needs of the beneficiaries, of our beneficiaries. So we are operating on international level. We are active in Afghanistan with an innovative vocational program teaching basics of coding for high school girl students and help them to access the jobs and internship opportunities with local companies. We are as well active in India and Brazil, providing support to social women entrepreneurs that are leading very promising organizations to help them extend their social impact. We are active as well in the Middle East by producing relevant content in social media with a platform called Women to challenge gender stereotypes with disruptive media content. And in different parts of the world, we put partners together to disseminate and adapt successful initiatives that are addressing violence against women. We invest per year 1.6 million in our programs. Our funding sources are mostly Swiss donor foundation, European and international donor foundation. We have major donors and public funds, for example, as this Geneva City and municipalities.
Okay, thank you very much. Reto from Caritas, do you want to say a few words as well?
Of course. Hello, everybody, and thank you very much for the invitation and also for the initiative for that webinar. I regard it as very important that we exchange broadly in our NGO world. So I don't think I need to lose a lot of words about Caritas Switzerland. Everybody knows that we're fighting poverty in Switzerland and abroad. Also emergency relief and a lot of other stuff regarding poverty alleviation. So I don't go into details here. But we are happy to join and exchange our thoughts in these tough times.
Thank you very much. Marco Zaug from RaiseNow.
Hey everybody, I'm Marco. I'm head of RaiseNow. RaiseNow is a technology provider providing fundraising technology for Swiss charities and clubs, but also international charities in Europe and other regions. Most of you stumbled across that, I guess, seeing our technology on websites like such as the ones, for example, Caritas and others. I'm happy to be on that call to also share a different angle on the current situation, and I also provide, I can already promise, some insights what we gain from the collective wisdom we have with our customers.
Okay, thank you very much. So great to have you on board. So I'd like to start with the first question about the context. So the situation in which we are, and having a focus maybe more on Switzerland and the non-profit world, because every country has its own timeline when we talk about COVID-19. From your perception, where is Switzerland and where are the Swiss non-profits in this timeline? What's your feeling about that? Ines, do you want to be the first one?
Sure, always the first one, okay. Thank you, David. Yes, I mean, in Switzerland, we work all for different NGOs, and we are here from different organizations even. So I guess even if Switzerland is on a certain timeline, I cannot say that every organization is on that exact timeline. For example, for us, if we can think of it like in the beginning, it was the shock that this is happening, you know, like Corona, and nobody knew what does it mean actually. Yeah? And then came the emergency response to the Corona crisis. So let's help people who are in the Corona crisis. Let's do something. Corona. You know, everybody is in those waters. And I think right now we are there. We are in this emergency response world here in Switzerland, but we're already thinking now, what next? What's going to happen actually next? Because we're seeing now that the Corona crisis is not going to be over in 2 weeks, what we probably thought at the beginning. So we are already adapting to the changes of the crisis in our organizations, at least at Fragile. Well, you know, everybody works from home now, or most people. So we're doing a lot of digital stuff right now, which we didn't used to do so much before. So where are we in the timeline? We are, I think, like in the middle, you know, between this emergency response, which is going to go on probably for some time, and this, what are we going to do now in a couple of months? You know, is it going to be like this, and so on. So this is my
and
take on it.
Sabine, Sabine, you were mentioning, of course, that you're working with countries like Afghanistan. So you're international. You're acting internationally. So what's your perception of the situation of non-profits in Switzerland in comparison with what you can see in other countries?
Yes, well, I would say, for example, we had different timelines with Brazil, India, Afghanistan. So the first consequence was the capacity of adapting the programs. We work internationally. So what is the consequence if we are partnering with high school girls in Kabul and they are suddenly closed? How do we maintain our program? How do we organize this schedule? So we were very soon able to adapt and organize e-learning classes with our beneficiaries in India. We were capable to understand the needs of the beneficiaries, because one of the assets, I mean, in this time of crisis, is to have a very close relationship with what's happening on the ground. We are operating internationally, and this is the basics to be able to react. So now we are in the phase that we have been able to adapt, choose solutions, assure the continuity of the program. And now is to see how we are going to continue the next couple of months. We don't know the situation in Afghanistan, if the schools are going to reopen. Our beneficiaries, our fellows in India, have been completely absorbed and impacted with other needs than that they usually deserve, that they usually provide. So. We are in the moment now we have stabilized the way we are implementing the program, but we need to see now how it's going to happen in the next couple of weeks. Okay. And especially also with the donor, but this we can approach later.
Yeah, okay, great. And later I'll come back to the things the actions that you took and the decision that you made to adapt the situation, because I think it's very, very important. Reto, what about Caritas, because you are a pure Swiss, mainly Swiss organization. You provide and you support local causes. What's your view on that, since that you're mainly focusing on Switzerland?
Well, we are not mainly focusing on Switzerland, though. We have both hats on, but yeah, we kicked off pretty fast when that whole crisis started. And what I realized in our country was that the solidarity was enormous. You know, people wanted to help. They wanted to, at the end of the day, they wanted to donate money. So that was really great to see. I think also what also started was quite fast was the exchange between fundraisers. Also, we started to connect and started to exchange thoughts, how to deal with that, what everybody's expecting. And I encountered also there a lot of solidarity between different NGOs. And then the challenges also started to how to adapt everything in the field, especially abroad, as just Sabine just mentioned. And perhaps a bit more than halfway. But it's challenging times, but with a lot of opportunities also.
Okay, thanks. Marco, if we take a bit of perspective, what's your view on that? Because you're collaborating with a lot of non-profits around the world. How would you maybe describe the position of Switzerland in the timeline? Do you see anything different?
I wouldn't say. The different countries actually reacts similarly towards fundraising, for example, or how the nonprofits react. Obviously, there are organizations or suppliers. Don't forget the suppliers. There's a huge industry actually behind the organizations as well. So there are organizations or maybe suppliers that were affected heavily. So, for example, face-to-face fundraising was stopped immediately. So that was causing issues, of course, for that particular part of the industry. Then obviously there were other organizations that were challenged with IT internal topics. So, for example, how to handle home office with so many people being at home at that one moment. Luckily, it's not only a non-profit topic, it was also a topic a lot of the company faced. My wife, for example, works for a Swiss bank, for a big one, and they even had issues coping with that home office situation. They were not able to access the network and so on. So I think I haven't seen any particular difference in Switzerland to the international, and I support Rita's observation that the solidarity was big not only in Switzerland but also in other countries. So from the transactional point of view, the fundraising results are actually pretty positive, I have to say. Then there is, and there is actually obviously the group of we observed actually three groups actually of organizations. The ones basically that just did not adapt, and they just say, okay, we just continue our work as always. So sending out direct mails the same way they planned. Then there were a second group that seized the moment. So basically this group went out and changed rapidly, went out to also work with freelancers and volunteers. And there were even gatherings of people that come up with specific solutions for people that were affected. And then the third group actually is the group which basically already is on their journey towards digital transformation. And for them, actually, it was not too much of a change, actually. They were ready to basically also go for the opportunity and use the technology that they have in place.
Okay. Yeah, this notion of solidarity that you both mentioned is important. And the question I have is, did you see a difference, or maybe Sabine, did you notice a change in the way of raising funds with institutions, of course, because that's your main focus? Did you see that people were reacting differently to the solicitations? Did you notice some changes in the way they were requesting information or assigning priorities?
Yeah, I mean, most of the donors, the first concern was to see, because they are co-financing the program on the whole year, was to understand how we can continue the program under what conditions. So it was to reassure them with the solution we had found, and also some other donors. I mean, Swiss Donor Foundation, you cannot always have regular access with them. It's a contract, you have to inform them. But some others did not search for any information. Some other donor foundation, which were we were very glad on that. They are not particularly helping emergency relief, but they opened a special fund for COVID. So we have to understand Womanity is not working, it has no expertise in emergency relief. So we really depend on donor foundation that share our heart mission. Suddenly, we were afraid that we are still afraid now that a certain amount will be dedicated to emergency relief, and what would be left for other activities that are not first priority. But mostly the donors were concerned about the continuity of the program. Some of them were very flexible into understanding, okay, we might reduce some activities, we might delay some activities. Some other have opened a special COVID fund to cover the additional costs, because of course when you change from in-person classes to e-learning, you have additional costs. You have to provide all the girls with special personal laptops, equip all the families with internet. It's a quite big challenge. So, but yeah, it's mixed, no?
Okay, that's different. Reto, so at Caritas you also have a portion of individual donations as well, and we usually say that donating is something quite emotional. And would you say that on both the institutional side and individual side, you noticed a switch in the perception of the donation, in the priorities of your donors in Switzerland?
No, I would not say. In general, what I encountered is a lot of flexibility on the foundation side. If we had a request for changing something or needed to adapt, there was always a yes, of course. Nobody just said no. And as I said, from in the private donor sector is really, how shall I say, generous. They really want to help. They want to support, not only in giving us money, but I was just speaking to our donation service yesterday, and they told me it's really funny and interesting, but people are calling more often to change certain things that actually help Caritas to save money.
Okay.
So they said, oh, I don't want that letter, or I don't need to send me a thank you letter. And that actually has increased in their, so that's, I think it's an interesting point that it's not only donating, but they're actually thinking farther also.
Okay. Thank you. Very interesting. Ines, would you say that getting funds is more complex than usual in these crisis times?
Yeah, David. Well, it's actually a bit too soon to say because it's just 2 months now with the crisis. But what we have had to do at Fragile is we offer courses for people with brain injury, different courses, so they can learn, for example, to type on a computer again, or they have a cooking course, or all this sort of stuff that helps them, reintegrate into society and meet other people and be out there, So we couldn't give them this opportunity now in spring because of the COVID problem. But our donors, especially the institutional donors, they didn't change their policy this time. But I see a bit of a problem with the new fundraising, with institutional donors, because there is now a lot of money, of course, for the COVID response, and our programs are not actually about the COVID problem or the Corona problem that we have right now. Sure, it's indirectly because our clients are suffering and our team and so on, and we have to put on the programs that we are canceling or trying to do later the events and so on. So it has nothing to do directly with Corona. So also other donors of our organization, they have been generous as usual. There hasn't been actually anybody asking us, but we have been asking them how they are. We feel this. We want to talk to our donors, to reach out to them, because also many of our donors are elderly people, who support us, and this is really very important for us. And now they are also alone in their homes, so we wanted to know how they are as well, not just how we are doing, but also how they are. And this has been we have been communicating much more with our donors right now in general.
Okay, great. This is very interesting, and this leads to another question more about your internal organization, because doing fundraising activities requires commitment, dedication, motivation. It's not the easiest job in the world. So how did your teams react to the situation? And how the management put things in place, or how did the management do to ensure that the level of motivation was still high, to take care of psychological concern of people? Or what was the impact on the teams internally? Sabine, do you have some insight on that?
I think yes. It has, for us, it has really intensified our internal communication. We already work remotely, most of our team, because we are located in different parts. So, but it has intensified our internal communication, and also we had to have very accurate and recent and immediate information about what is happening in the countries where we are active. So it was a reinforcement between program management and fundraising in order to reshape the programs, because of course you have the current donors that you have to reassure or to continue the collaboration with, but you have to fundraise the current year. How do you approach new donors with a program that has to be changed and everything? So this was actually a very good exercise to see how we can function all together.
Okay, so it kind of helped break the silos internally and strengthen internal collaboration. It's very interesting. And Ines,
Yes.
Did you notice changes, I mean, in terms of relationship, collaboration, motivation due to this COVID-19 crisis?
Well, are you all tired of Zoom? No, I mean, yeah, we've been communicating a lot from remote places right now. And as Sabine also said, we work in different regions in Switzerland, also our fundraising team, but we're a small team. We're somehow kind of a family. So we are motivated seeing, you know, from this perspective, but also we have to remind ourselves all the time about our purpose and our focus, you know. So who are we actually working for? This is very important right now because we don't have this direct connection that we always have also with our clients or with the people that we support. This makes it very hard also for our teams in general. So we have to, you know, we have to collaborate on that and say, okay, we have to even work more now. And actually, it's been more work in fundraising right now for us. Because also, as Sabine said, we have been changing programs, we have been postponing things, and also in communication, we have to communicate all these changes to every stakeholder, you know. So it's been interesting right now, and of course also complex. It's not easy. But we are also used to working remote, so it was not totally new for us, you know, to work at home and yeah, to do our stuff.
Just before asking the same question to Reto, just would like to remind people in the audience that they can ask questions in the chat, and we'll take them at the end for those who arrived late. So feel free. Reto, as you're a much bigger organization, what did you notice, and how was this handled by the management? How did they react to that?
Well, we first reacted in our team. So we really, when the government put out their first measures, we get organized, and from one day to the other, everybody was working from home. So the whole fundraising team was really flexible there, and from then on, everything was just working smoothly. That was really incredible to see. And the results are excellent. So everything has been done. We actually encountered to be more effective working from home. That's something we still have to think about a bit, I think.
That's true.
As an organization, they founded a task force, and they met several times a week and to discuss all that different aspects within such a huge organizations, where you have people out in the field taking care of migrants up to people like us sitting in the office or at home. So it's such a huge difference in situations they had to deal with. Yeah. But we, as a fundraising team, we were at home and discovered all the tools we actually already have, but never used before. So yeah, it was fun. But yeah, the social interaction, the personal interaction started to be missed by everybody after a certain time.
And among the things that Caritas implemented, could you give a few examples of the things that worked well, things that maybe didn't work that well? Do you measure this kind of efficiency and the impact of the things that you've been implementing over the past couple of months?
You mean fundraising-wise?
Yeah, mainly at your level.
Well, the first place was our full energy was on an emergency appeal, of course, for Corona-affected poor people in Switzerland. So that's in the first 1 or 2 weeks was the main focus, and then at the same time, when that was more or less out, there were other appeals actually planned or actually already on the printer, more or less. So we needed to think, okay, what are we going to do with our Easter campaign, which was mainly about Syria? So we just postponed it a bit, a couple of things, and added one small sentence, just making a connection to the current situation, but mainly let it go like that. And to say what worked well, both these things, the emergency appeal as our normal Eastern campaign, are actually on the way. excellent. We're very, very happy about that. What it proved to be difficult now is looking ahead, planning the next couple of mailings. Getting material from the field is increasingly difficult because people cannot travel into countries like Ethiopia or South Sudan or you name it. So getting proper stories, current situations has proven to be more difficult. So we had to be flexible. Okay. So we dug in our archive and see what kind of stories do we still have we can actually use, we haven't used so far. And we adapted a couple of things we used already once, always in a way that it still, of course, reflects the current situation. Flexibility is key all the time. Every week we had to decide anew.
Okay, Ines, when did you start planning on how to approach this crisis, this situation, and what did you implement at Fragile Suisse?
Yeah, first I would like to just add a very small thing to relate to what he said. It's like, because I also sometimes feel like we're a bit more effective at home, but then everybody was like, Ines, yeah, but do you have kids? This is not. So working at home with kids is a big challenge also in our team. So this is not as easy, but the rest, yes, sometimes it's been more productive. And then David, sorry, yes, planning strategically. We didn't plan like when it started, you know, so we were more learning on the job at the beginning, but we did create a Corona task force. And we stayed, you know, tuned to every change that was made because of Corona in Switzerland. And I think in general in Switzerland, things have been very clear, you know, from our government and so on. So we adapted a lot of things that were required. People work from home. But we had, of course, to introduce also short-term employment, for example, for quite a part of our team, not fundraising, but from the Fragile team. And the services that we offer, this is also a problem we have now, where we have to adapt, as I said. So we're trying to offer some of our services online, which has been a bit of a challenge, because of course people with brain injury, they have difficulties of, you know, receiving online courses or discussions or our help. Some people cannot see very well, some people cannot hear very well. So this has been really a learning process till now. So we'll see, we're adapting and hopefully improving. But yeah, let's see how this crisis also is going to go.
Yeah. Okay. And Sabine, the impact for you was mainly on the field, because you could not help the people the same way you did before, but you had to keep helping them, but differently maybe.
Yes, this was the fact. I mean, we had to, for example, in Brazil, where we supporting women entrepreneurs that are helping other women, suddenly the needs were food and safety kits. And so this is what we had to, that our team, our program manager had to estimate how many people, how many beneficiaries, in order to react very quickly. And then we had to be loose with our, I mean, this is not normally in our expertise and in our scope of action. So we included it, of course, and we did the same in India. As I told you before, in Afghanistan, we were able to adapt very quickly. And for example, in the Middle East, with our social media content, suddenly all the coverage was focused on COVID. So we had to create contents about COVID, but then also delay every production schedule we had to delay to another time where we have this capacity where the public will be able to receive other kinds of information. Yeah. So and different countries are acting in different ways, so we had to, but basically everything came to the same moment.
Okay, and Marco, I have a question for you, because usually when we talk about flexibility or adaptability in terms of crisis, and nowadays, you know, it's all about, yeah, go digital. It's easier to get donations, but from an institutional perspective, of course, it's not the same. But what's your feeling, Marco, on this digitization of fundraising? We have a few slides to share, but what's your perception of that? Because some organization might be mature for that, others maybe not. How do you perceive the situation?
So yeah, obviously, digital is all. So everybody talk about digital, and it certainly helps to accelerate digitization and digital transformation efforts. So a lot of the people already working in that areas were super happy that they got more senior management support for some of the activities, investments towards digital fundraising, for example. We have interesting observations that during this crisis, we actually had, we received requests from organizations or from companies actually we've never worked with in the past. So we were contacted by media, for example, 20 minutes to name one, or others that wanted to raise funds for the Corona crisis. We were contacted by small businesses that wanted to raise funds for themselves. We actually had also a lot of requests for crowdfunding activities. And actually what we did was we had our customer success team, we installed a COVID fast lane, so to basically cope with all those onboarding requests. So for us, actually, we had a lot of requests to deal with. So my team was and is still working hard to get new customers up and running. So I'd like to share some additional insights we got. Some of you already know this slide. So this is a collaboration we have with GetUnic, which is a specialized digital fundraising, digital marketing agency. And we were able to analyze data, comparing data sets from last year to 19, from February to April, mid of April, and look at data we got this year, specifically towards donations. And we analyzed the data of roughly 100 organizations doing fundraising only in Switzerland. So those were donations only raised in Switzerland. So what you can see is that actually the overall increase was roughly 44% in that particular period. If you go to the next slide, you will also see that with the number of transactions, it's roughly 29% more transactions. And if you go to the next slide, you see that also the average donation increased overall. I think this is another question is it because of the crisis or not? Is it because of the digitization? I think both things will play a role. If you now look on the next slide, I think that's more interesting in my point of view. Actually, if you look at the donation volume that has been received amongst the different categories, be it like from health or organizations, crowdfunding platforms, emergency aid, animal care, and so on, political campaigns, we initially thought our thesis was actually, yeah, emergency campaigns will get most of the funds and the rest will basically be stopped. So organizations that do not specifically address the crisis will suffer. And actually that was not the case. So all the other categories all raised more funds in that particular period. If you look at the transaction size, so most of the average donations were higher or similar. So I think the only one that actually was a little bit lower was crowdfunding. And then if you look at how people paid for their donation, this is a trend we notice, and this is no news for a lot of the fundraisers that actually do online fundraising. There are a lot of abbreviations here. You see explanation on the left-hand side, but you can instantly spot one big change, which is Twint. So Twint is was introduced a couple of years back, and since ignition, we see an increase in the volume, and now we reached a level that is increasingly it's extremely dominant. So my advice to all the organizations out there, so first of all, if you don't have any digital fundraising in place, I think please speed up. So if you do address individual giving, you have to have online fundraising in place. Secondly, if you don't accept Twint, this is a big mistake. We see that we have customers with 60% of donations coming in through Twint. And Twint is actually even pushing further to innovate the space. So there will be new cool features coming from Twint over the couple next months. And therefore, yeah, make sure that you actually have Twint up and running. Yeah, I think that's it, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for this insight, Marco. It's always good to take a bit of perspective and see yeah, what the data is saying. Now I have a question. If we look ahead, if we talk about the future, of course, we cannot predict the future. But if we try to predict what's going to be the fundraising in Switzerland over the coming 6 to 12 months, what's your gut feeling, maybe? Reto, how do you see the next 6 to 12 months with the current situation?
Well, if we look back at the last financial crisis a couple of years back, we did not encounter any reduction in donation volumes, right? So I'm pretty confident that even though we will hit some kind of financial crisis coming up in the next couple of months, I stay positive. And the other thing is the thing just Marco mentioned. It might be that people got so used now to digital tools, digital payment, because nobody wants to pay with cash in the shops anymore. So they're getting used to all these tools. I really see an opportunity there, and that people might change their donation behavior also to go more on the digital path. I think COVID-19 will be active in Switzerland, the top topic for the next 6 or 12 months in people's head and in the media also. So I think people will keep having a high solidarity still. So I'm looking optimistic, actually, and I want to encourage to do so for everybody out there.
Yeah. Anyway, there's no other option. We have to cope with the situation. So that's a challenge, but yes, absolutely. Sabine, what's your feeling about the future?
Well, I think this moment has shown that it is a moment for us to emphasize the digital fundraising, and for sure, digital fundraising is it depends the cause, you know. It depends. We have launched, for example, some crowdfunding action, and the results were so because what we have observed is that the behavior of private individual has mostly shifted from global to local in a way that we care for those we know, no? And so we are working with women communities in India and Brazil, and there were no coverage at all on how harsh the situation has impacted them. So people did not realize how big the needs are outside their own local situation, and this was not helping the crowdfunding initiative that we put in place. Well, it responded, but not as much as we thought. And of course, we need to build a virtual community grow on time, and to see how actually what we've felt is like the engagement that a donor has to take the cause as it is his own cause, and the emotional bond is very important, and the gap in media coverage of some aspect of our activities and the population where we are addressing our program, we're a little bit undermining this capacity of ours. Well, and basically we'll see. I mean, fundraising is an ongoing process. We have to catch up some little delay we have taken now by adapting. Now we have to find new donors to cover the year budget. And we are not especially active on sanitary crisis, so we have to see how this is going to end by the end of the year. Hopefully, we can cover our budget.
Okay, Ines, quick feeling about the future?
Yeah. If I see into my crystal ball, you know, I mean, the future, the digitization thing, this is a problem for us, definitely, because well, how can you do everything we do digital and also fundraising? I mean, we have older people who donate, we have people with disabilities who work with us who also donate. So how do you do this now? So we have to think about this. I mean, we don't have a solution yet about the digitization, but we're thinking about these things. What about the events? You know, the events are very important for us, and the human aspect of our work. We need to see the people, and the people need to see us physically. So this is really a problem now with I mean, we cannot work out everything in the digital world, but we will see how this is going to go. The thing is, I'm hoping for the strengthening of the so-called, you know, kinder economics, that people will care more about people, about the environment, maybe after these months of crisis, and that they will recognize more the role of the NGOs and NPOs, you know, because this is really important, what people in NPOs and NGOs are doing right now here in Switzerland and in the world. And maybe we in the NPOs, we would have to experiment a bit more, maybe more entrepreneurship in our little world that we have here. We will see, but yeah, the prediction is really hard right now, though. It depends on how long the crisis is going to last, definitely.
Okay. And Marco, you made a recommendation just before, like a takeaway about digitization, digital fundraising. And that's also something that you see coming in the future. You're just making a recommendation because, I mean, because of your business, but that's also a trend that you see clearly, and you showed it with the figure. And would you have another, I mean, if you had to summarize the main takeaway or a piece of advice for the organizations that are in the audience, Marco, what would it be?
So don't get me wrong. So digital fundraising is not like the only fundraising method, and I think you should continue with the other methods because direct mailing, for example, is still very strong, and you see also even direct response TV being better now. Better results. So the only actually fundraising method that really suffered a lot was face-to-face, but there are some countries that already do face-to-face, started with face-to-face campaigns or adapted face-to-face campaigns, and support Ines with, they try and they adapt to the situation and see whether they can actually find a new way of fundraising, even in the streets or door-to-door fundraising. So I also support Ines with the vote you gave that the non-profits are needed more than ever. I mean, everybody now is aware that even in the rich countries where we live in, we have the privilege to live in the rich countries. Even in our countries, this situation can happen. We are united because of that crisis, so that's the good thing. We also see there are big shifts towards how the workplaces are. Basically, I would say workplaces turn into digital empowered workplaces. the digitization is accelerated, which is it's a good thing in my point of view. And now you asked a specific question towards what advice I would give. I think what we see, and that is it hasn't changed. There are a couple of people in the stream here that know me, and I'm telling that for a couple of years now, that data-driven fundraising, that also includes marketing automation and the use of the tools basically behind the scenes, becomes the new normal. So that basically, that you basically ultimately have better fundraising, and you basically have a better communication to your donors, because there's a lot of data, and you can use that data to improve donor relationship. And I think that's something you should look at if you don't do that in your organization. So basically unite the fundraising channels you have into a coherent, with a donor-focused fundraising, where it doesn't matter which channel a donor is approached, but actually the channels should work together, and that ultimately will benefit everybody. The charities will have higher fundraising results. The donor will have a better collaboration with the charities, and ultimately the costs will also be way lower.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now, the same question to Reto, Sabine, and Ines. If you had to summarize your main recommendation in one sentence, what would that be to your peers, mainly that are in the audience? Sabine, do you want to make a recommendation?
Yeah, I think for sure, adaptation is the key word for the next couple of months. I think also strong accountability, sharing with donors as much as possible the challenge that you are facing and also the solution that you are implementing, and remind donors of their role as a vital partner in making your interventions a reality. I mean, we can prepare everything, adapt the program, but at the end, the donor makes the difference. Is the
okay?
Yeah.
Perfect.
And
perfect.
Positive. Now we have to keep positive
and optimistic. Yeah. Ines, what would be yours?
Yeah, my advice. I mean, I always have to think of this quote by the poet Robert Frost, if you know, the American poet, who said, "In 3 words, I can tell you what I've learned about life. It goes on." So these 3 words, so just keep a cool head. We have a crisis right now, but we will be okay. Sure, as Sabine said, we will have to adapt and improve even on these adaptations. But it depends on how long it's going to go. And sure, I mean, there is a lot of networking going on right now, also, among fundraisers, as Reto said. So we are exchanging views, we are working together, and I think more collaboration would be needed, much needed, and actually appreciated, especially also for small organizations like ours. We profit from the advice of the others. How are they doing things, or what can we tell them on how we are doing things? And I'd say honest conversation with donors, that's really important. And to not forget the purpose of our work. So who are we working for? What are we working for? This is really important to keep, the focus in this very challenging times, I have to say.
Yeah. Thank you. Reto?
Thank you.
One recommendation?
I have to say that these 2 ladies more or less said everything I wanted to say already. We need to keep our heads up and keep walking. I mean, the world was changing even before that crisis hit our planet. And we have been seeing trends that fundraising needs to adapt quite a bit also in the last couple of months or years. So I think this might just speed up that change process. So we need to be, needs to keep our eyes open, observe the world, and need to find the way where to go to actually fulfill our mission and finance our so important projects out there.
Okay, thank you very much. So now it's time for Q&A, but before that, I just would like to thank you a lot, Ines, Sabine, Marco, and Reto, for being there with us. Much appreciated. I also would like to thank you, and to thank Geza and Danielle from Salesforce.org, who helped a lot setting this up. And of course, my colleague Emma from Nexell, who orchestrated and organized the whole event. So that was great. Thanks for the audience as well. And we see that we have a few questions. And one question that is coming back several times is about the physical fundraising events. How do you see the future of these events? How do you think they will survive or completely disappear? That's maybe a bit early to say that, but what's your opinion about that? Who wants to take the lead on this answer? Any idea?
I can only say hopefully survive. Yeah, this is what I would say, you know. But yeah, we don't know. But we need these face-to-face events, and I can't think of not having them. You know, this is a really interesting point right now that we're facing. Like, what are we going to do if we don't have these events? You know, this is so important also for acquiring new donors so that they get to know us. We are not celebrities, you know, on Instagram and Facebook and so on. So we need these events. So probably we will have to, you know, put our protective measures or do it in a different way. But this is a very, very big challenge for us, and I guess for a lot of organizations out there.
Okay, and there is a question for you, Reto. Actually, there are two questions. The first one is, do you have some requests from donors for the service, what they call e-bill?
No.
Okay, and that's for the donors to receive the information directly in their banking, so you don't have this kind of request. So another question is, you mentioned that you connected with other fundraisers when the COVID-19 crisis began, and Linda is asking if you're a member of a fundraising or fundraiser association like Suisse Fundraising, or where do you meet, or how do you exchange with your peers?
Yeah, one channel is actually really Suisse Fundraising. They set up every Tuesday. There's a call now, and where fundraisers exchange, they organize that, and I think they organize that very well. It's also, with the technology they use, it's really straightforward. I don't know, up until now it was in German only, so I'm not sure what their plans are regarding the language. And the other thing is just network. People were just calling up, hey, we are all from Lucerne, let's meet. Well, we met online, of course, and we just exchanged thoughts for an hour, and it was good. We realized everybody's in the same boat, and yeah, it was very motivational.
Okay, and another question to Marco from John. So he's asking, as fundraising goes more and more digital, he's asking if today's situation increase the rate of change versus offline fundraising. So I assume he's asking if there's a switch or there's a change in the paradigm between offline fundraising and online fundraising. Do you notice this, that donors are more and more inclined to replace their offline donations by online donations, or just targeting a new audience?
It depends on the organization, so it also depends on the fundraising appeals. Obviously, direct mailing is still very dominant with using bank transfers and actually cash payments at postal offices and so on. Online is gaining more and more, and so basically the share in how much funds come in online versus the rest is definitely increasing. It's not increasing massively. We'll see that later this year, but it's certainly increasing even over the last few years. And I think there are developments in the market now that also brings cashless options even in offline world. So for example, if you have a direct mailing, you can also, for example, have a twin QR code on a offline mailing. So to offer option for actually donors to also quickly pay via twin. now the question will then be: Is it considered an online payment? Is it considered an offline payment? I think the determination whether it's online or not is more difficult over the time, actually, because the existing channels will be enriched with digital technology, and therefore ultimately the question is, where do you reach your donors, be it new donors or existing donors? And obviously with each touch point, you just offer the best ways to basically for the donors to engage, be it to pay or to express their opinion. And I think actually the technology is here. The digital payment options are here. E-bill was a question. E-bill is also here, but I don't think e-bill plays an important role for the charities. E-bill is rather for the invoice-related cash flows, so for membership payments, for example, or for classical invoices, but not for donation appeals. And so therefore, yeah, this like offline online separation, I don't think that it's difficult. If you ask 5 organizations what is the separation between on and offline, they will struggle because they do not know, is an online bank transfer considered online or is it offline? Because it's a payment slip they probably use to pay online. So probably Rita can answer that one. How do you see that?
You asking me?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's always a different question how you separate these two, right? Because these two worlds also support each other in one or the other way, which we cannot measure at all. So yeah, we've tried that printing on mails and so on and so forth, and I think that's just an interesting world we need to gain experience with now. And we fundraisers will stop thinking in these two worlds, but probably our board of directors will still do. So that's probably the challenge to explain them that these two things are actually merging now.
I'm conscious of time, and there are a few extra questions for you, Marco, about Twint, about this kind of payment processing. So I suggest we take them offline and we follow up with Linda, who asked these few questions. We're a bit late, but yeah, I think that was a good discussion. 1 hour is very short, but it was a very good one. We hope to organize a few other like this in the near future. So thanks again for being here with us tonight. Thanks again to the panelists for attending, for investing a bit of time with us. It was much appreciated and valuable. And if you have any question, feel free to follow up. You will receive a survey in a few days with a few questions. We would love to hear your feedback about this event, about the format, the organization. It's always much appreciated. So we thank you in advance for filling in this questionnaire. We thank you again warmly for being there, and we hope to see you very soon in person, we hope, or during one of the next webinars that we will be doing. But thank you very much. Have a good evening. Enjoy the rest of the day, and take care. Stay safe.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.